You're going to be able to see everything. The last couple of projects are not going to be streamed, at least the demos aren't going to be streamed, and the presentation on the final project is not going to be streamed at all. So the live stream audience will end after the presentation for group number 6, which is Oceana, and the live demo for Oceana will be in the soundstage next door, and I would encourage everybody here to come over and see it. It's absolutely awesome. And so we've got a total of 7 presentations today. And the live stream audience will see 6. The final presentation that the live stream audience isn't seeing is not suitable for a live stream audience. I'll just leave it at that. And it has to do with some future work not wanting to be disseminated around. And so with that, I'm going to leave it to the teams. We have a very specific order. And so after each presentation, I'll have the SME spend just a little bit of time kind of commenting on how it was to work with the team and what they think of the final project and maybe where it goes from here. And so be ready for that, SMEs. And so without further ado, I'll leave it to Team 1, the most fun team in the building.
Yeah. Ladies, gentlemen, undersea creatures, it is my sublime pleasure and genuine honor to present to you this little project that we've been working on called Beetle. This is, for those of you who don't speak Japanese, a pun. Get used to those, there's going to be a lot. You see, because of the way this is laid out, this is generally read as lovers. You see, we made a dating simulator. However, equally valid is the translation carp people. Let's dig in a little bit to the weeds here. This is our assigned subject matter expert, Professor Mihoko Wheeler. She's an incredibly smart human being and a Japanese language instructor at UCF. And she approached us because she was noticing a few issues recurring with her students, specifically the pitch accent discontent. You see, Japanese has this idiosyncrasy of pitch accents. Some syllables have very specific pitches that convey meaning, and this can be key for distinguishing homophones. Depending on how you say the hiragana ha, shi, ga, you could be saying sake, salmon, or rip. It's entirely dependent on the pitch that each individual syllable is pronounced at. This is really hard to recognize for non-native speakers, harder still to recreate. And there are some tools that try to teach you this. There's textbooks, which are inadequate for what I hope are obvious reasons. And there are recordings, but these tend to be sort of dry and boring and uninteractive. And as game developers, those are 3 very big no-nos for us. So the primary goals that were presented to us by our SME is she wanted to train the recognition of pitch accents and explore some of these common mistakes. Also, in order to use this as an actual teaching tool, we want to be able to measure and analyze student response times. And of course, to give us an edge over just the base recordings, we want to maintain this enjoyable, engaging atmosphere. Other than that, we had a great deal of creative freedom, and there are some serious highlights from our brainstorming sessions. We wanted to incorporate the target audience's interests, that is to say the interests of college students learning Japanese. We want to motivate them to learn more by expressing how they're doing through reactions of in-game avatars. We want to really dig into the comedy that stems from misunderstandings, and we wanted to produce a fun product by having fun making it. So our core mechanic that really digs into this pitch accent recognition is you will hear a word in Japanese stated in a certain way, and you have to use the arrow keys to back channel that word back with the correct pitch accents. Some of our inspirations include Attune, an RPP project from last semester, which used a similar mechanic of recognizing chords in order to platform and dive under or jump over obstacles while you couldn't see those obstacles. We're also inspired by this game called Rhythm Heaven, which has this similar sort of call and response gameplay, where the game will present you with some manner of audio cue, and you have to answer it in a certain way. This minigame right here is called Ringside, where, depending on what the reporter says to you, you have to, as the luchador, either say yes, flex your muscles, or pose for the fans. Of course, another thing that really inspired us was this game called Dream Daddy. This is a dating simulator, came out a couple years ago. It's an absolute riot. The writing is hilarious. They put a lot of effort into it. It's a dating sim where you're a single dad and you date other single dads, and it's extremely charming and absolutely hilarious. But it's also an interesting case study of how you Americanize a very traditionally Japanese game style, the visual novel. And of course, it'd be remiss to talk about language learning in games without talking about Duolingo. That's right, it's not just a meme about a green bird that will physically assault you if you don't practice Spanish. It's a very useful tool that has been helping millions of people learn new languages for 8 years. So, let's dig into our story. You play Yu Miyazaki, an American exchange student in Japan. He speaks no Japanese. He survives social situations by listening to certain words and back-channeling them to the people he's talking to. Your challenge as Yu Miyazaki is to bluff your way into the hearts of others with the assistance of an imaginary friend named Mochibi. You have to avoid having awkward moments in these dates, and maybe you'll even learn Japanese along the way. We really like this concept because it digs into this really silly world. It plays into a few common tropes of some aspects of Japanese media. All our characters that you'll see in these coming slides are actually based on a certain kind of art style from Japanese manga and anime. Additionally, since this is a very silly, goofy universe, it sort of forces engagement with the player in order to actually understand what's going on. So it wasn't 100% smooth sailing all the way through. I wrote this dialogue writing tool that was supposed to make writing the scripts a little bit easier, and eventually it did, but there was a little bit of overhead with that, and we had some real struggles in the future. The funny thing about autosave is that we're all used to having it, and when it's not there, you lose entire scripts that you've been writing for a couple hours. Additionally, hiragana, Perforce hates it. It does not interact with it at all. So we had to make some creative solutions with zipping up our files and syncing those with Perforce. We basically had to bootleg our audio files into our game. The other major issues that came up were scheduling. We have voice actors in our game that are from our SME's classroom, and they're just busy all the time with their undergrad work. Of course, GDC and Spring Break and Capstone ate into the development time for this, and due to some miscommunications and unforeseen events, we didn't meet with our SME as much as we would have liked. Additionally, some other issues, half our team doesn't actually speak Japanese. So that led to some fun challenges with Google Translate and me trying to see what audio line lines up with which piece of script. That was a lot of fun. But there were also a lot of really bright spots. Once we got our data-driven pipeline running with this dialogue writing tool, which I can actually show you right here. Right here, this is a script for Ryuji Sakamoto's date. And you can actually parse through here and see the different lines. Most of them are in English, but once we start getting into the actual Japanese characters, you can see we have the translations provided by Professor Wheeler and her daughter, and the subtitle that accompanies them. And of course, there's also functionality in here for different branches, depending on when one of those pitch accent games comes up, eventually. There it is. All right, so right here we have the word that we want to say, the jump pattern associated with it, 1 being a high pitch, 0 being a low pitch, and the different parts of the script that can take you to. This exports directly to JSON, and we just plug it right into Unity. So having that data-driven nature was a huge advantage to us. We also had a lot of fun creating these characters because we were basing their personalities on this wordplay that we could create, and we ended up with a lot of fun situations. Also, our art looks fantastic. These characters have full emotional ranges and will respond based on what sort of weird thing or not weird thing you have said during the date. And of course, this was a really exciting project for us. We had a lot of fun every step of the way. But what do we do next? Well, we want to sort of explore more ways to challenge the player. Another common issue that new Japanese students have is distinguishing prepositions of here, there, and way over there. Koko, soko, and asoko. Additionally, Japanese wordplay is a massive universe, and we have barely scratched the surface. I want to make more puns. Now, of course, we can always polish more. The sound balancing isn't as perfect as it could be. We talked a lot about having a character customizer in the beginning, but we didn't quite get there. And of course, you could always add more sprites, more emotions, more sound effects, more dates. And that's stuff that really, really excites us. There's been some discussion about taking this into venture track. We're currently considering that, but we're still kind of on the fence. We think there's a lot of real potential here, and that it's a really exciting tool for learning a language that can be really notoriously difficult. So let's have a look at it. All right. So this introductory section gives us a little bit of backstory onto these characters and like where they're from. We can actually meet all of our characters through this little setting. But to get to the good stuff, let's choose someone to date. Now, my personal favorite is best girl down here, Kawako, who actually hasn't like filled in her information on this dating site yet. You know, if you go to the Octopus Man, he's got it all figured out. But we're gonna go on a little adventure here. Also, this is a horror game now. All right, is the music coming through? Yeah. Excellent. Okay. This is Mochibi, our imaginary friend who helps us through this language. You can also use the spacebar to skip through some of the dialogue.
Yu-san? こんばんは、ゆうさん。暗くてごめんなさい。
Who has some truly disturbing work in his library. So I'm getting some bad vibes here, but I think we can break through this tough exterior. No, we're sticking with it. Yeah, imagine like playtesting this at like 3 a.m. Very upsetting.
ここに入ってはいけませんでした。この部屋を見たことがないんですよ。
Hottie is our word. So we can hear it again and try to determine the pitch accents. Our life depends on it. This sounds like high, low, low to me.
見ましたね。私の網針。編み物は私の趣味です。ちょっとうるさいからあまりこの話はしません。みんなからかいますから。ここは私のアートです。美術に興味がありますか？散らかっていてすみません。あ、さっき持っていたのはパレットナイフです。私、何か面白いことを言いましたか？そうですか。美術に興味がありますか？答えてください。まだ勉強中ですから見せたくないのですが、あなたには特別に見せてあげます。どう思いますか？
We'll go ahead and continue the script a little bit, but Professor Wheeler, I'd like you to share your input.
Thank you for the wonderful game. This is the first time I see with all the voice actors and everything. Pretty lively and nice. It was amazing that what we came up with, because I just gave you guys a previous request. Please make your pitch accent game, and target is to college students, and please have fun making it. And the very first meeting, within a couple minutes, they already had the base of this game. And we could not meet all those requests. Every time we meet, and they have something that's beyond my imagination. And then they always ready to say, what else can we add? We can do this, we can do that. And without me saying anything, they're adding 5 more stuff. Then they ask me, what kind of data you want? You want like the linguist dream. Right? So it was really fun, and it was quite enjoyable working with that. Very fun. Also creative and very organized. So thank you so much, and sorry they let me talk because I have to do other. Thank you. I'm gonna run out, but I want to check out a little bit.
Okay. So let's make this visual novel into a choose-your-own-adventure story. Do you guys want to bail out here and like explore like the credit scene and like the data, like the report card for how the player is doing, or do you want to see where this goes? Let's see where it goes. All right.
ありがとうございます。とても嬉しいです。よかったら後であなたに書きましょう。この瞬間が永遠になります。あ、お茶飲みましょう。お菓子もありますよ。私は編み物とアートが好きなのを知っていますね。ユウさんの趣味は何ですか？
We don't actually know English, we don't actually know Japanese. It's just guesswork at what she's saying. The only words we can say are yes and good. So that was a fun script challenge.
虫が
Alright, so we collect insects and we're trying to say mushiga.
虫が虫が虫が好きなんですか？一緒に来てください。目をつぶって待っていてください。すぐ戻ります。目を開けたらすぐわかるから開けないでください。目を開けないで手を出してください。
Last chance.
私の宝物です。目を開けていいですよ。クロロケグモです。2年前に大学に行くときに両親にもらいました。綺麗でしょ？3頭を殺せるぐらいの毒が強いです。ユウさんを刺されたらそうなんですよ。クロロケグモの肉はあまり強くないです。この子は恥ずかしがり屋さんですから、あまり長い間持っていない方がいいです。いつもお利口さんですけどね。この子とまた遊びたかったら言ってくださいね。いつでも連れてきますから。みんな、この子のことを気持ち悪いって言って困ります。雲の気持ちも知らないで。私にも同じ。ひどいわ。ユウさんは他の人と違ってよかったです。ユウさんもそう思うでしょう。ありがとう。優しいのね。
Alright. So, that's an example of a date. There's usually two words that you have to, like two different words that you have to listen to and hear the pitch accent of. And depending on what sort of response you give, you will either raise an affinity with that character or fall an affinity. That's that little heart icon that was in the corner. And once it's high enough, you can actually bring them into the finale. The end of the year festival.
ユウさん、今日いい匂いがしますね。
Yikes.
お礼を言う勇気がありませんでした。はい。 てはいけない目に招待して趣味を見せて気持ちを見せて一番大切な宝物をあなたの手に乗せてでもあなたは私を恐れませんでした。他の人と違って泣いたり叫んだり漏らしたりしませんでした。あなたとの時間が懐かしいです。学校を終わって国に帰りますね。こんな気持ちにまたなれるかしら。
There are a few other features. There's this area, Koi Lingo, where you can select a certain word and it'll randomize the pitch pronunciations for it, so you can just sort of practice around a little bit. Alright, results have been recorded. That sounds ominous. Let's go check that out. So there's this function here called the gradebook, where we can see like the total amount of time that we've been playing, how much time we've been specifically in platform, in like the game platformer, and also gives us our favorite date. It measures like our affinity with that character and other characters in total, the word, correct pitch, attempted pitch, how many times like we had to hear it to get it right, the difference between the time between hearing the word for the first time and entering the first character, then first and second, then second and third. And that's recorded individually for all the different pronunciations. So if this gets sent home as a learning tool, all the kids have to do is take a screenshot of this and send it along. And of course, there is credits.
Thank you very much, Josh. Excellent presentation, and I'm glad that your S&D got to talk to us before she had to leave to go do her final, so thank you. We have Team 2 come on up and get set up. Does anybody have any questions for Josh?
All right, hello everyone. My name is Ryan. I'm the project lead for the VR Delirium project, which is an educational project about delirium. So today we're going to go over a bit of what the background of this project is. how we made a VR project to train medical professionals in delirium. We're going to demonstrate our project, and we're going to tell you a bit about what the future holds for this project. So first, what is delirium? I think when I started working on this project, I had no idea. What is it? It is an acute confusional state. And it's, for our purposes specifically, it's important that it's prevalent among veterans. We were working with the Veterans Health Administration. So and this is very important that we can figure out a way to help patients that are experiencing this. And we don't know exactly kind of what the underlying causes, but we can identify a few risk factors. Particularly being in a hospital. A hospital stay has a lot of risk factors that can trigger delirium. So some of this is some of the medications that you could be on, some of the whatever injury or trauma that put you into the hospital can bring this on, and also just the experience of being kind of cooped up in a hospital room without your regular interaction can bring on this experience. So we were presented with a challenge. We wanted to increase the awareness in the medical community that we're working with of what delirium is and how to recognize it. We wanted to help these medical staff be able to recognize delirium because it can be kind of hard to recognize if you're not fully trained in it, and it can be often misdiagnosed as dementia, and so the patients can just be assumed to have dementia when what you're actually dealing with is delirium. And we wanted to help increase an understanding for these medical professionals so that they knew they could help understand what the patient is going through so that they could better provide care for them. So there's a lot of different ways that you could solve this problem. Just teaching materials. Text materials can be helpful. They can clinically describe what the experience is. Maybe help in the recognition of it. One of the problems with that would be that it's difficult to really give a full experience with a text material. You're not going to get that emotional experience of really understanding what the patient is going through. You can have live training. So you can have people who are experts in the topic come in and give live training about what delirium is and give a really fleshed out presentation about it, go into a lot of detail. Problem with that is that means a person needs to go around and train the specific medical staff. That takes a lot of time, and even if you have a lot of people to do it, it's hard to standardize that. So that's where technology comes in, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build a VR project to help give a simulation of what a patient with delirium is going through. So we want to fully immerse the user in the experience of a delirious patient. We want to help them better recognize what the patient is going through and help them better empathize with this patient by giving them a full audio-visual immersion. And to help us with that, we had our wonderful SME, Dr. Lawrence Solberg, who is partnering with the VA and trying to help solve this problem of training medical staff to understand delirium. And so the doctor and his team and all the people at the VA who've been so helpful in providing us an understanding of what delirium is and what they need to build, or what they needed us to build in order to train people in understanding this. So they gave us a goal. They wanted a kind of a short experience that would simulate what a patient going through delirium is experiencing. We wanted it to be from their perspective. We wanted to have the patient experience the hallucinations that a patient would experience. We wanted to go through the feeling of being a patient with delirium. So we need to portray a lot of audio and visuals in this experience. We wanted this to be built as a proof of concept. This is a first step for a long project And we wanted this to be a quick way to show what we can do with the technology. And as part of that, we needed to use a lightweight VR footprint. So where the range of VR technology spans a large amount. You have your several $1,000 pieces of equipment. That's not what we wanted to start with. We wanted to start with a cheap option that could be inexpensively deployed on a large scale, so that this could be shown to as many people as possible, so that we can start off giving this experience to the medical professionals, and also using this to show people at the VA what is possible with this technology and why we should continue this project. So, what is the result? We made a great prototype that allows you to experience the effects of delirium on one of these kind of Google Cardboard devices. So these are really cheap and will run with most any iOS or Android phone. We were able to build something for both of them. And there's a large range of what you can do with these devices. So we got kind of another one here, which even this is only $20. Which has a nice strap and kind of wireless earbuds with it. So we were able to build something that could run on really inexpensive technology that would be easy to deploy widely, and even able to make a web VR enabled version. So you don't even have to download anything to a device. You can run through a web interface. And now I'm going to show a quick demonstration of what we had. We're going to be showing what a user in this experience would be seeing. We're just going to be simulated on this screen. There we go. So we have this area where you can look around and begin the experience.
Good to see you. Do you know where you are? I'm in bed. Why are you home? You're in the hospital, Mr. Carbone. What's today's date? I have to get up. I have to go to work. Mr. Carbone, you're in the hospital. I'm going to examine you now. Look up. Look down. Look left. Look right. Take a deep breath. Are you in pain? Why are you trying to hurt me? I'll get you some water. Hello?
Hi, sweetheart. Are you ready to got news?
The man here was trying to hurt you. I don't know where he went. You have to get here. I don't have my boots.
What? Honey, the doctor won't hurt you.
No, the man was here, and there are others outside my door. Where are you?
Those are the doctors and nurses here.
No, you aren't listening. They were. Oh my God, there's a fire.
What? Honey, no. You're in the hospital with me there. There's a fire. There's a fire.
There's a fire. It's right outside the door. Oh my God, this is fire.
Sweetheart, listen. frightening. Who are you?
Mr. Carbone, you know where you are? What is today's date?
What are you? Can you tell me? Why are you mad at me?
All right. So that is what we built for them. We were able to build out, I think, a very successful project that was able to show what Delirium is and show a lot of these different hallucinations that the user can experience. So where to next? As I mentioned earlier, this is part one of a large-scale project. So we were able to build a small piece of the experience and show a proof of concept that we can simulate these effects of delirium in a virtual reality environment on a very simple device. So next steps, they're going to be looking at building out a larger scale version of the experience that we created, add more polish, more of the hallucinations, and a larger time of the experience. And after that, they have many plans looking in the future for various different types of VR experiences, looking at larger scale, more consumer PC VR, as well as even looking at haptic feedback and various other ways that we can influence the user and be able to portray these symptoms. And the goal of all this remains the same. We want to be able to train medical staff and be able to build awareness and empathy for these patients so that they can provide better care. Because in the end, that's really the goal of all of this, is to provide better care for these patients. And this is the team that we had building the project. And before we go, our contact at the VA, Al Maldonado, wanted to come up and say a few things.
First of all, on behalf of Mr. Jim Warner, the Chief Learning Officer for the Veteran Healthcare Administration Employee Education System, the Deputy Chief Learning Officer, Dr. Elizabeth James, and my supervisor, Robert Bond, and Tammy Sawinski, and Leslie Duval from the Gaming Division. We were very grateful for the opportunity, Tom, Eric, and the team, to providing something to the Veteran Healthcare Administration, because that's what it's all about. You'll hear this a lot as you leave in your future endeavor. Serious educational gaming is a big deal. It is now being looked upon for serious educational gaming, especially in the medical field, to provide training products to our healthcare providers anytime, any place, which increases their ability to continue to provide healthcare on site without having to leave the hospital and the bedside of our patient. This has been a tremendous experience for us in VA, but also for our client who drove down from Gainesville, have been fully engaged with Ryan and the team. And we would just like to present just a very small token of our appreciation for the hard work. This is a collaboration. Anytime we work together to provide health care to our veterans, it is a good story to tell. So with that, each one of the team members will receive a certificate of appreciation that says for you contributing your professional expertise to the design and the development of the Delirium Virtual Reality Project, signed by the project manager for the Employee Education System. Voila.
Thank you very much.
And also, just a caveat, quick caveat. Ryan, this project was very unique because a lot of y'all went to GDC, and my the Deputy Chief Learning Officer, Dr. Elizabeth Jane, with my immediate supervisor, Leslie Lowe, was also at GDC, and Ryan had the opportunity and the pleasure to present the initial prototype of the virtual reality Delirium project, and they were very impressed, and they're definitely going to be impressed when they see the final product. And so he also presented to our leadership staff, the e-learning leadership staff, when they came down from Cleveland. They came down to Orlando. Ryan presented again, and he was provided with a trinket that he has in his desk. And I also thought that it was only prudent and appropriate for us to present the same trinket to every team member of Ryan's team, so that they have a momentum in their desk to look upon a project that they helped provide a prototype to support services to our veterans. So each one of the team members will get one of these. And if I can have the team members very quickly come down.
Come on up and get your trinkets.
Alina? Alina? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brittany? Thank you. I got an alphabetical order.
Okay, that's fine.
Camille's? Camille? Carolina? Thank you.
If I could ask
Clark?
me to say a few
Clark?
words
He's not here.
About the project. And about the
He's not?
He's not here right now.
At this point, while you pass out the rest of the
Sure. So this was a great first step for us. We've been trying to figure out a way an innovative way to make delirium education something that we could bring to really distribute among the entire VA system without, what Ryan said was a standardization, because the change in the instructors and everything at each site really make a great variation of what the experience is. And this way, what we're looking at is being able to really disseminate a standardized training curriculum for everyone to be able to get this empathy with patients who are delirious, because they can't help what they're going through. But if we can establish an understanding about it, that way we can make for a better treatment. And the early recognition is one of the keys to avoiding future cognitive deficits that come from delirium. And so this has just been fantastic. The team was great to work with. We came down, met with them, gave them a whole bunch of material about delirium, and they really just chewed through it and got an understanding, and working with them to update from the prototype, giving ideas and giving more information, more patient stories about delirium. The final product just was fantastic, beyond all our expectations. So it's just great.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right, let's hear it one last time for your team.
Great. 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 Afternoon, everybody.
Hello.
Hi. I am Sam Cole. I'm the team lead for the drone project, which is made by Team Super Package here for FIEA GameLab 2019. So let's just dive right into it. So we partnered with a company called Adaptive Immersion, a small Florida-based company that creates adaptive simulation-based recruitment, selection, and training products. They've had several government contracts with military and health organizations as well. So with the increasing prevalence of hobbyist and commercial-grade drones, with big-name companies announcing plans to roll out larger-scale drone programs, Adaptive Immersion saw an opportunity. By pushing into the commercial sector, they wanted to create a new simulator that could assess upcoming drone operators for recruitment and for training, for use at big companies like Amazon or agencies like the FAA. They also wanted to their new simulation to feel more game-like compared to some of the rest of their products. And here at FIEA, we know a little bit about games. So our immediate thoughts about what the team wanted to make wasn't quite realistic. And then somebody in a design meeting, Daniel Selvia, our design lead, said, what about just swarms and swarms of bees? To which we promptly responded by making him design lead. So we talked to our SMEs, and we had some goals that we wanted to hit. We wanted to create a realistic simulation that was similar to real drone operation. We wanted to have a basic scoring system in place of more hardcore analytics and metrics that would later be determined and added by SMEs on their end. We wanted to base some of our obstacles and mechanics off of real FAA regulations. And we wanted the game to have a sort of game-like feedback system, not necessarily just feel like a complete simulation. And then, importantly, we wanted to have simple controls that don't necessarily favor gamers over non-gamers. So we divided the game into two ideas for control. The mission planning stage, where a user could control a drone from a map view and draw a flight path, and then send a drone on its way. We then wanted to make a control stage where a user could arrest control of a drone, manually fly it, and then possibly fly it away from perils and hazards, and land it to drop a package off. Again, both with simplified controls that don't favor prior gaming experience. So we started simple. We made a small little map layout of what would be a suburban neighborhood. It has a little lake, maybe a little commercial district. We thought that looked good, so we started whiteboxing that out. And then we moved forward, and we finished our little town that internally we've been referring to all this time as Bezosville. We tried to build it with some visually distinctive landmarks to easily orient the users, while also opening this up to possibilities of natural obstacles that operators would encounter. Here we have a nice little sort of pond, sort of park area. We have Farmer Brown's and his wheat fields, his little farmhouse. Here we have a giant radio tower overlooking the commercial district and the entire town. So with that, we're going to jump right in and show you what we ended up coming up with. Great. So here we have our drone, and the controls are simplified so that you can control drone movement just by using the mouse. Left click will yaw it to the left, right click will yaw it to the right. The scroll wheel will change altitude. You can see that we also have a functional pitch meter here, and holding down both left and right click will now fly us around Bezosville. We have a lot of detail in the area, and the main goal of the simulation is that you're going to pick up several package deliveries located here in the commercial district. Let's go ahead and pick up this one. And then simply you're going to fly it to location. Now, each package does have a weight associated with it that can alter the speed and control of your drone. Notice that we have a sort of no-fly zone as you get near to the radio tower. And flying in no-fly zones can possibly impact your score. So as we can see, we have our delivery zone here for this package. But right now, time is a factor here. Part of what we're judging drone operators is off of their base to multitask and to drop off these packages within a time window. So it's not exactly intuitive to pick these up sort of one at a time. So if we are going to switch to the over map view, you can see that we have several drones here that we can then switch between. We have him glowing here. And then we can simply just draw a path with the mouse and then send each drone on its merry way. So I'm going to do that here for each drone. Now we want to be careful to avoid what's designated as no-fly zones, because that will take a chunk out of your score and possibly ruin your chances at being an ace drone pilot. So we're going to go ahead, and while they are flying to the location, we can see that one drone is already flying by based off of the waypoints that we've set. We're going to go ahead and drop this package off for delivery, and this customer gets their free iPhone or what have you. Now, there are penalties for, of course, flying a drone into obstacles, and doing this too many times can destroy a drone and, of course, impact your score. So, going back to the map view here, we're going to switch to some of the other drones that are awaiting a package, and we're going to go ahead and pick them up. And then we're going to return to the map view, where now we are taking each drone, oops, this is number 3, and we're going to send them to their designated drop-off point. Now, what's also important to notice is that these drones can have their altitude controlled either in transit or on the map view, as denoted by how the path will change color. If we are going to follow one of these drones along their designated path here, we can also adjust altitude in flight. Now, this is good for when you have a lot of drones in an airspace and you're trying to make sure that none of them intersect, crash into each other, and so on. So each drone will fly to their corresponding waypoints until they arrive at their package destination. That's what we call express delivery. So this one is still on its merry way. He's going all the way, I believe, to Farmer Brown's house. In the meantime, we're going to, not that one, we're going to deliver the next package, and as you can see, I'm not the best drone pilot, so somewhere along the way this has crashed into an object. Wonderful. And now we just have Farmer Brown out here. And wow, I have a promising future as a drone operator. Isn't that exciting? Oh no. Great. So based off of this, what's the future for the drone project here? So essentially, this is the prototype before the prototype. It's a jumping off point for adaptive immersion to do what they do best and build their own prototype that can then be used by the FAA or other companies that begin rolling out recruitment programs for drones and their operators. They'll also be armed with our design documentation with obstacles and minigames that were out of scope for us to implement for this demonstration. And it means that this can help shape better drone pilots. It can make our packages arrive on time, safely, and it can ensure that there are friendly automated skies that are accident-free. This is who Team Super Package is, and for anybody at home, any alumni watching on live stream, if you would like to hire any of these hardworking individuals from this team, please feel free to reach out with this email, and I would be happy to get you in contact with those individuals. Thank you very much.
SME from Adaptive Immersion to talk about the end project and what the team would like to work with, and any other work you'd like to talk about.
Sure. So I'm Noelle, I'm from AMC, for the company, and also like a design project manager. Sam and the team who folks at Super Package. Yeah, it was, I mean, definitely, a little bit of communication bumps on the road, just different people, especially during the season. But the communication that we had was really good, and I even came up here at one point with a big brainstorming session, and it kind of felt like what we've done with our own military drone simulations. They were already thinking of ideas along those lines, and even extending beyond with the multiple drone thing, which is actually, I was really excited to see, because we've been working on that, and didn't really quite have the time to do it, so to see that's really great. And we're really thrilled because this is actually going to be demoed next week at the drone conference, at the Expedition conference. So we're really excited to showcase it to other people, kind of drum up some excitement about this, and kind of move forward with the ideas that we've done.
Good.
Really proud of you guys.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Team Buddy, and we're going to be talking about Project AR Buddy, a mobile game to encourage trauma resilience in children. So what is AR Buddy? Well, AR Buddy is a lot of things. From a game student's perspective, it's a game that helps children cope with their traumatic experiences and give them positive reinforcement to help them overcome bad times in different, whatever sense of the word it applies to them. It's also a research tool for psychologists to use in discovering how to best help children, especially young children, cope with traumatic situations and trauma. And for hospitals, it's a way for them to encourage social connections and foster social growth in these young children who are long-term patients in hospitals. If they keep coming back to a hospital over and over again, they keep sitting in the same bed for long periods of time, not seeing many people outside their doctors or their family. You want to give them room to grow and talk to other people, and this is a good way to do that. Now, our subject matter expert is the lovely Dr. Michelle D. Madsen-Thompson, PhD, LCSW. She is a professor at FSU. She has been doing a lot of research in resilience factors and trauma resilience in children. So she is especially interested in helping child victims of trauma and how positive influences especially can help mitigate negative impacts of trauma. So we were given several parameters for this project, mostly focused on positivity and how can we best help all these young children in hospitals. So, of course, child-friendly is kind of obvious, but it's there. We need especially, though, to be careful with the language that we use for this game. It was, especially for different children need different words to help them feel better. It has to do with resilience, the research into resilience factors that Dr. Michelle has done. And you can see a list of all these different things that help children out in times of trauma. Maybe what helps one child through a traumatic situation is not going to help a different child at all. So we have to be very careful with how we worded these different types of dialogues, how these different questions came across, and taking that into our design considerations. Also, we wanted each AR buddy, our little buddies that we made, to be representative of each of these factors. So we have these little AR buddies. I don't know if you could tell from the title. They are these nice little friends that the app is going to help you get to know. They're going to help you out through all these little games. They're going to have fun. You can play with them, and they are going to be focused on helping these children cope with these traumatic situations and give them whatever positive reinforcement they need to get through to the end of the day, the end of bad hospital visits, whatever they need. And as for how we did, we think we did pretty great, honestly. So these are our buddies that we have made. This guy over here, this is Candy Boy. He is the resilience factor he represents is self-value. He's focused on, okay, this is what I'm going to do to get through to today. This is what's going to help me get through this hard time because I value myself. This is our little robot friend who the resilience factor that they represent is self-regulation. It's that ability that some people have to just look at something terrible and just be like, I'm not going to lose my cool over this today. I'm just going to get through this. I'm going to be in control of myself. Now, Fluffy here, the resilience factor they represent is friends. Very friendly, very fluffy, very adorable. And so this buddy is meant to help you these children, meant to help these children remember friends and engage in friendship activities and remember that they have friends who support them through these hard times. And now we have our little fox girl, who is a lovely little skirt-wielding girl. That was a terrible thing to say. I am so sorry. Skirt. She has a very cute skirt, is what I meant to say. And her resilience factor that she represents is goals. So she's meant to help these children, the users of this app, focus on, okay, what are my goals? What are the things I want to get done? What is this thing I am striving for that I absolutely want more than anything else, and how can I get there? And we also have several mini games in this app. And so it goes from anything from playing catch with your buddy in an AR environment to solving a puzzle cube, which the main goal of the puzzle cube is the opposite of a Rubik's Cube. You're supposed to mix everything up. You're supposed to have like different faces on each side of the cube. You get the point. And our last little game that we have developed is called Follow the Leader. Interesting kind of pick up the pieces as you go type of game. I am running out of words. I am sorry for that. Now, the core gameplay loop. Let's start from the very, very, very beginning before we even get to the survey, honestly. We're going to start with this little guy. The idea for AR Buddy is that these are going to be, there are going to be servers for each individual area where that's, like each hospital or each ward is going to have their own little servers that will host little AR Buddy servers where patients can connect to each other in a limited fashion. So they can't connect to people across the world, but they can connect to people that are close to them. And the way that they will get to the app is this little buddy right here. Not much of a face, but he does have a QR code on the back that a phone can scan, and it can give the app to the phone. It can take the child's phone or their parent's phone to a place where they can go get the app and then connect to the hospital servers without having to worry about any weirdness going on with a Google Play Store or getting into things that they're not supposed to get into. So once the phone downloads the AR Buddy app from this little figurine guy, it takes them to a one-time survey. This survey is meant to see what the strongest resilience factors in these children are. Whether it's self-value, self-regulation, whether family means the most to them. It's there just one time, as much as they go through as much of it as they can, and they get through that one-time step, and they are suggested a buddy. So now they have a buddy. They have a friend who's best suited to help them with their strongest resilience factor and give them as much positive reinforcement as they can stand. And now we have the regular everyday gameplay loop, which is the login screen, which you can go, the AR Buddy will check up on you at least once a day. And they can say like, oh, are you feeling happy? Are you feeling sad? Are you angry today? Has the doctor been treating you badly? And then, depending on what the answer is, they can say, oh, would you like to play this minigame? Would you like to play that minigame? Would you like to just go chill out in our little safe space hub for a while? And from the safe space hub, you can access all of these other functions of our game, from messaging and sending gifts to friends, to playing with the other AR buddies, hanging out with your own little buddy in the space, playing different minigames, and then eventually you would exit the app. And in the future, or more immediately this summer, several things are happening. So there's going to be research testing with the app that will happen with different resilience groups for children. Dr. Michelle will be taking this app out to these groups and seeing, okay, how does this app help? What's the best way we can improve upon this prototype, and so on. The resilience research will then be shown at the National Children's Medical Center of China, and the prototype will be made available to the hospitals there for the different kids to use on their own servers. And app progress will also be shown with Dr. Michelle's resilience research to the American Professional Society on Abuse of Children. And then the ultimate goal for this app is that it will get developed for however long it needs to get polished. It'll get put so much more time and effort will be put into this, and it will be made available for hospitals to run on their own servers for patients to connect with each other and encourage trauma resilience more effectively. And now, demo time, because really, there's a lot going on with this app, and there might be a few people out there in the live stream that are kind of lost right now. So we're going to focus more on demonstrating all the bits and bobs that go along with this app.
Yep, and to that end, we're going to do a little bit of hot swapping here. As first,
right.
We're going to show all of the what we call the hub, the main plate, and the simple sign-in, because the screen capture software we have really cuts down on the quality, and we've had problems with it looking very blurry, and especially for those of you live streaming, would make it especially difficult. So we're going to kind of look at all the stuff that we can do in the hub, and then hop over to the phone and look at the mini games.
Oh, you got it there?
Yeah, I got it.
All right. All right, so we begin with a sign-in screen. So basically what you do here is you can put in a name, username, and it can be whatever you'd like. And then select the country, and then you select your location, because again, these are location-based servers. You want to make sure you're in the right spot. And then we're loading a survey. This is the resilience survey. And let's say, how old do we want to be? Because there's two different versions of this. Let's go with 4 years old at first. And see, for younger children, we have different selection of buttons that are more icons. They're more obvious to choose from. So you can go through and click through the survey, and they can interact with it more easily. And for demo purposes, if we can... Right, so that button, the skip button, is auto-filled the survey, and now a buddy has been suggested to us, and it's our robot buddy. So let's see, how do we feel today? Happy? Okay, see, happy. Yeah, doing great. This is a great thing. Let's. Do we want to play a game?
Not quite.
Not quite yet. Okay, let's play games later. We can show them off more on the phone itself. But see. This is our Safe Space Hub area. It's a nice place for users to just take a deep breath, unwind if they need to, and they can just not have to worry about all these outside things so much when they're just trying to focus on their time in the app. So.
Do we want to show swapping out?
Yeah, let's show swapping out, because, you know, suggesting a buddy's all well and good, but you want to be able to give these children the ability to choose which one's their favorite. So let's pick Candy Buddy. So say goodbye to our little toaster friend, and now we have Candy Boy. So the idea is that, yes, you are given a suggested buddy, but also you don't want to constrain these children if like lollipops are their most favorite thing ever and they absolutely must have Candy Boy on their screen in front of them.
And if you want to, you just have to work up for the tickets. And in fact, let's show off some some of the things you can do with tickets.
Yep. All right. So some of the things you can do within the hub, there's several of these little mini activities. So here you can buy a snack from this little snack tree. Yeah. Oh. Let's see. I don't think you quite got to feed the buddy. Yeah. He doesn't like onions. Okay. Let's see.
Pudding cup on the other hand.
Pudding cup. Oh, you just hit him in the face. Let's stop giving our buddy snacks. It doesn't seem to be going well. Really? Let's stop.
There we go.
Okay. Okay, so he likes apples. Okay, it's good. It's good to know. Now let's stop torturing our poor friend with terrible, terrible food. And I think there was a easel somewhere, right? Yeah. Let's go check out the easel. And it's a brush. Let's see what that does. And it gives you a brush, and you can brush your little buddy, and different reactions will come up. Yeah, he's feeling good. He's brushing his non-existent hair. Feeling good, feeling nice and groomed.
And then something to note is that let's go ahead and get back Robot Guy here.
Mm-hmm.
And now let's see, he's got his own little unique animations. And then if we come over here, we can do all the same. Oh, sorry, buddy.
Yeah. So. No.
Not right now. Especially not raw onions.
Yeah, these poor guys do not have the best snack selection in the tree right now. I feel so sorry for them.
And then let me go put this back.
Yeah. So put the brush back, and now the other thing that we have is this little mailbox out in the corner here. Let's go see what that is. Oh, it's our messaging system. So for our messaging system, what we have is these little notes that you can send to different people, and it can be either people that you've been sending notes with before or just people within your local server area. So let's just see who's around, just to send a message to. And yep.
And oh look, we got Android.
Yeah, we got a real friend at the very end there.
Let's see.
And we have these limited selections for the messages because we do want to foster communication between these children, but we also want to not have them curse at each other regularly or like share anything risky to have over hospital servers. So this is the compromise. We have these selection of things you can send to each other.
And that's actually a pretty good segue to just take a break from here.
Yeah. Are we going to show getting a message now?
Yeah, well.
The message that we just sent?
Yep.
Perhaps? Oh, yeah. Goodness. Now let's excuse the technical difficulties. USB cord is the most brutal technical difficulty of them all.
Okay.
All right. All right. Now.
If we look at our message.
Hold on. You haven't.
Oh, yeah.
They can't see you, Brandon.
Whoops. Well, if we look
and
at our message,
yep.
It is from the best team, and it's exactly as we laid out. And then let's go ahead and swap. Whoops.
Brandon, what are you doing with our gyroscope?
Sorry.
All right.
There we go.
Brandon cannot work our app, so I suppose I'll just keep talking. So yes, we can real-time send messages between different users, and we are also able to send information both from the resilience survey and whatever other relevant information there is to a database. So the database updates regularly. It can both change the survey that these kids are taking in real time, so that there are different language options for hospitals to choose for the different surveys. To explain that a little better, there's, say, a hospital in the United States and a hospital in Mexico. The Mexico hospital probably wants a Spanish language survey. So they can go to the database and select the Spanish language version of the survey, and that will be available for the app in their local server. And then the hospital in the United States can have the English language version of the survey selected, and that is what will show up on their servers. And all data from the resilience survey about what resilience factors help these individual users most is also given back to the database.
And then we're just going to keep going on the computer.
On that one?
Yeah, because there's apparently something wrong with the gyroscope.
All right.
That's all right. Go ahead and grab the image target.
And let me go get our image target for our AR minigames, because we do want to show that off, of course. Yeah, we can't show off AR in the dark. It doesn't really work with the image on the paper, because then it's just sort of like, what is this, a blank surface? All right. Let me know when you want to be plugged in.
Yep. Okay, so we'll just start off with...
Ready to be plugged in to show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Terribly sorry about this, folks. There we go.
Oh. Hey. Now we can see our buddy in AR. And yep, that's full screen, so now we can actually see our buddy in AR. And this is our first minigame, the catch minigame. So the idea is you throw these objects to the AR buddy, and it will catch them and then be able to throw them back to you. Candy Boy is not catching very well.
Oh, no, that was, that's what happens when you move them out of the way.
Yep. Yep. And he throws it right back to your face. And then do we want to demonstrate the other?
Yeah. And then let's go ahead and show off, we'll just show off minigame 3. It's the best one.
Of course. Best for last.
And here we have the follow the leader.
Mm-hmm. If we could actually see it now.
Okay.
Yep, now.
And I'm going to hold the image target back a bit so we can get a good view of it.
All good?
So, yep.
Okay.
So you pick up one of these eggs, and then you have a little parade of chicken friends following you.
Yep. So.
And you got to be careful though, because if you bump into them, the fun's over.
Yep. So we're trying to get as many of these little cute little chicks as you can in the train.
And then there's these power-ups of flowers that speed you up, mudslides that slow you down, which you actually want to hit the mudslides. And then I'm doing.
You're doing it. You're certainly.
Well.
Yes.
There it is.
And that's the end of that.
Yeah, and then last thing I would like to show is a proper lineup of our artist testing bed.
It's there.
There we go. So we can see just lined up side by side all the great work our various artists did in bringing the buddies to life, which of things that we learned, the difficulty in creating the characters was by far the biggest challenge.
Oh.
Yeah, there we go.
All right.
And then we can see one of the things we learned how to do was share animations where we needed to, and then make our own.
So
Hold on, I got it.
a lot of the characters, the buddies that we've made, all share the same rig for animations. And you can see side by side.
And this
the
is
fox and
all
the,
of the reactions from the check-in, so that we don't have to go through the check-in over and over. And then.
Yep, they can basically do a line dance like this for forever. And I believe
that concludes.
That is what we have to show. Thank you for listening. And do we have any questions?
Before questions, if we could get the SME to talk a little bit about the project and working with the team.
I just want to thank y'all. That was amazing. It's been, like 15 years of research behind this. And the thing that's cool is that there's a lot of research on children. There's a lot of practice that people do with children, and there's a lot of games for children, and there's very rarely that those all three connect. So we can have practice-based evidence and evidence-based practice that we can bring from this. And I'm so excited. And this team has been amazing. They've contacted me through the entire time. We've been on Slack together, and if there's anything I wanted with a buddy, like, oh, well, what if you did this? They all listen. So I just have had an amazing experience, and seeing that all up there, I actually got a little teary because it's been so long in my life, and how much I've worked, and I just wanted to thank you all so much.
Thank you, that's awesome. It's always great to get the SME's perspective on things, because sometimes when we're dealing with new tech and prototypes, and you kind of have these different bars and different classes for what good looks like, for me at least, it comes off as really level setting for me when I hear the SMEs react the way that they do, when it's like, oh gee, that doesn't look that great or something, and then all of a sudden you hear that and it's like, no, this is awesome in their world and for their purposes. What you guys are doing is great. So kudos to the team. Appreciate you sticking through it and sticking through the tech challenges. A lot of times in GameLab we have a lot of tech challenges, and that's okay. Innovation is hard, and so good job. If I can get the next team to set up, and if we have any questions for the AR Buddy team, I would appreciate it. One thing unique about the
Deal? All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Josh Navarro. I'm here to present to you guys Project Oasis that we have been working on over the course of this semester. So let's get started here. So our SME is Dr. Trey Vasquez. He has a pretty close relationship with FIEA. He's currently working with our venture track students, and he decided to reach out to us to help him create this new project that they're looking to seek funding and expand after this. Obviously, quite a few credentials here. You guys can look through that. It's been a pleasure working with him, and hopefully we did him proud and his team. So our team breakdown, we have 8 team members total. We had a total of 2 programmers, 2 artists, and 4 producers. These are just a little bit of the tasks that we looked at. Most of our team on the production side were tech designers, so we got to get into the code a little bit, but also help design the minigame, implement and test that game. And the programmers focused on finicking around with our HoloLens, which we were in, as well as the data collection in the back end. And our artists obviously created the art and the models for the project, some of the UI elements, and then project management helping us stay on track and scheduling. So our game is about executive function, and in relation to that, also the WISC exam. If anybody is familiar with WISC, it's a very bulky, kind of large, it's a very large test. Our team kind of got a first glimpse of it at the beginning of this project, and it was a little overwhelming for us to look at all the different pieces. A couple of our team members had actually taken the exam. So our goal for the project was to create a pre-test for the WISC, because not every student actually needs to take the full exam, but some do. So the good thing about our game and our project was we needed to create something that tested, and then if based on the results of that test, it determined whether they need to continue on to the actual full exam after that. So what the WISC exam actually tests, it helps identify giftedness, but also learning disabilities, general strengths and weaknesses of different cognitive abilities in children. And executive function works with that based on the 6 parts of it. So working memory, attention to detail, long and short-term memory, planning, time management, and their soft skills. The game that we've created for Trey and his team right now focuses on the working memory aspect. And again, as a full project, it would test more or all of these parts of executive function. So our game, so what we made is an AR game, again in HoloLens, designed to evaluate working memory aspect of executive function. The player is given a DNA strand that's focused on one side, and it's essentially a matching. They have to turn around and then recreate that DNA strand in 3D space behind them. What we measure is how many times the player turns around, how many total correct and incorrect answers they got through the entire experience, and then how long the player took from start to finish. All of these types of data are they're able to use to determine if the student needs to go into further testing for the WISC exam. So our game move for the project. So we have our main menu, which also kind of serves as a very small tutorial. In order to start the game, the player must drag an intro DNA strand to the start function, and that starts the actual game. Level 1 difficulty consists of 3 DNA strands that the player must memorize. So they're given, again, the 3 configured areas of the DNA strand. They turn around and they implement those again. If they get 3 of those correct, then it goes on to level 2. If they get 3 incorrect, it goes back and it restarts level 1. And if they fail level 1 3 times, then that ends the assessment. And that loop continues through all 3 difficulties. Each one, if they get it incorrect, it goes back to level 2 and then ends the assessment if they get it incorrect 3 times. So our target audience, they're testing with high school and college because it's easier to get those types of students to actually test with, but the target audience actually is for middle school and high school kids. And again, it's to be used as a pre-screen or pre-test for the full WISC test. It's able to show who may benefit from deeper testing. It also avoids having all these students who they want to test sit through the entire full WISC exam. So I'm a big fan of quotes. Our team had its struggles like every other team, but we also had some triumphs, so I wanted to share this quote. The change is hard and requires constant struggle and determination. So with that, some of the challenges for our team. Some people know, some people don't know. We originally started this project in Magic Leap. None of us being too familiar with AR, we didn't know the limitations of the software or what we actually get benefits out of it. After our first playable presentation, we decided to switch to HoloLens for a few reasons. One of the biggest ones was accessibility issues. A lot of our team members wear glasses, so HoloLens is able to fit the faces of more people better. It was better suited for students and kids of smaller ages for different head sizes. And then also for just ease of use, HoloLens has two different ways of interacting with the environment around you. They have the pinch and the motion, and the balloon, like the motion activated controls, but it also has a controller similar to Magic Leap, so that flexibility of controller really helps as well. Some of the things that we learned along the way were like you're learning and implementing the mixed reality toolkit, which we use with HoloLens, really digging into that and not only just using that code, but modifying it for our needs. That took a little longer than expected, some things like that. And then hardware troubles, with this type of environment, there are no AR targets that you can project on. We had to do it in a 3D space. And the room mapping with HoloLens is that's very well documented as the troubles if there's moving objects, reflective surfaces, and then any kind of like chairs or multiple tables in the room, all of that gets picked up and it kind of messes with where things are in the environment. So those are some struggles that we both recognized but then overcame as well. So again, another quote, failure will never overtake me if my determination to succeed is strong enough, and our team thankfully was up to that challenge. So again, we also had some triumphs, what we learned. So everyone on the team now has some familiarity with AR, HoloLens, and Magic Leap. We were able to design and iterate quickly on various games. One was implemented, but there were also other designs thrown out there. So we all got experience with designing and iterating on these games. We were able to implement UI in HoloLens, which our team found out was not the easiest of tasks, but we did successfully do that as well. Again, how to integrate with an established toolkit. So using someone else's code is never the easiest thing, but being able to add on to that and make it work for our purposes was definitely a success on our part. And then again, collecting data and then exporting those files for ease of use. So for people who aren't familiar with code and don't know how to dig into that, having an easy to use CSV file that they can pull up and just read data is extremely beneficial for Trey and his team. So the future plans for the project. So our SME, Trey wants to show this prototype again as a proof of concept. Their goal is to get expanded, or to get funding to expand this project, again, to test more of those different executive functions. And this was mainly to be used to show the viability of the project, that it is something that can succeed in the future. And again, the end goal is to provide the pre-test option for students who may need further tests, but avoid having every student take the risk. So for our demo, as mentioned previously, the room mapping is finicky with HoloLens. So what we were able to do is get a clear space, and we recorded video of one of our team members actually playing through the game, and it worked out much better to have an empty room. So we're going to show that video for you now. Make sure the volume's good.
Welcome to my lab. Your task is to solve puzzles to escape from this room as quickly as possible. First, you need to learn how to navigate in a virtual environment. I'll tell you how to do it. Pinch your fingers to grab a nucleotide pair and drag it to the location highlighted in yellow. Now let it go. Demonstrate how to grab, drag, and drop a base into the DNA. Describe the process aloud as it is happening. Let's get started. There's a fingerprint scanner in the room. To open it, you'll need to recreate the DNA molecule. Find the completed DNA strand. Recreate the completed DNA sequence in the empty DNA strand. Look for the DNA strand. Drag the nucleotide pairs to the helix to complete the DNA sequence. Try to look back as little as possible. Great job. That's exactly how you do it.
All right, thank you guys for your time.
If I could get Trey to say a couple things about working with your team while the next team gets set up.
So one of the exciting things about our world is that we're in a high-risk, high-reward situation. The traditional way in which assessments are delivered are paper-based assessments. The emergence of serious games has pushed the world of education a little forward. No one is creating virtual reality, augmented reality assessments to look at psychological results. So we learned a boatload of information this semester. First and foremost, we learned that the Magic Leap is not capable of
Hi guys, my name is Carol Eastwood. I'm going to be talking about Oceana today. Oceana is a VR experience that we created because our SME is right down here. I'll introduce them. Dr. Stella Sung, who is the director of UCF Create and the composer of the Oceana musical piece. We also have Matt Tracy, who is the audio technician, and Chris Rhoda, who is a tech art producer here at FIEA. So Dr. Song wrote a musical composition based on what she had learned about noise pollution and how it's affecting our oceans. This composition is about 13 minutes long, and she had made a film about it previously but wanted to bring it into virtual reality. Studies show that people who experience things firsthand are more affected by those things than people who just hear about those things. So our project is really about showing the effects of noise pollution on the ocean. So based on her music, we utilized asset packs to kind of bring up the visual quality of the prototype, and we obviously created some hero assets and effects as well. But first, let me talk a little bit about noise pollution. Over 90% of our global commerce travels on ships that emit noise pollution. Every 9 to 12 seconds, ships will trawl the ocean and emit basically small sonic booms that penetrate the ocean floor and help us find natural gas and oil deposits. But we're just starting to learn how that's affecting the ocean negatively. Almost all marine animals use sound to navigate and survive. Some animals die or flee their homes because of the humanity's impact on the ocean with these this noise pollution. These are some of the models that we created along with asset packs. We wanted to create an oil rig. While we're not focused on oil pollution, studies show that we are seeing that instead of just totally trashing oil rigs once they're decommissioned, they'll put them in environments and use them as infrastructure for coral reefs. We also created some fish eggs and some fish. We also created visual effects just for more immersiveness. We have a sand cloud, some bubbles that emit from the controller, and the biggest one is the seismic wave. That is the visual representation of what happens when we're looking for those natural gas deposits. These are just some of the asset packs we used because this is just over the course of the semester, and this is really just a prototype that we wanted to give to Stella so she could get more funding and push it to the next stage of polishing. We wanted to make sure that it was visually clear that you are in the ocean and it's supposed to be this immersive experience, so we wanted to make it as beautiful as possible without killing our artist. We utilized level layout and streaming for this. We are working in UE4 for this project, and level streaming is typically used as you're walking through a linear level. As you round a corner, that next level section will load up and it will unload when you're not there, just to kind of make it easier for the computer to run. But we're kind of breaking that and using it in our own way. We're using level layout and streaming to make the props that are currently there disappear and replace them with the next props. We want to put you in this ocean environment and show you how it's changing over the course of 13 minutes. Really, instead of just changing locations and showing you things, we want this to be an overall similar narrative to show you the effects of pollution and what can happen because of that. We used Wise to integrate our sound, so we took Stella's original 13-minute composition. We've layered over some ambient ocean sounds for further immersion, as well as adding those sound effects. We have a certain amount of interactables. This project is going to be pushed to maybe museums and exhibitions, and when it's played in symphonies, Stella wants to show it right with that music so that people who are hearing the sound can see the visuals that she wants them to see along with it. But to add in that extra level of interactability and kind of gameplay feel, we have those bubbles for small children. They can wave the controller around and kind of have that interactivity. We also have some vibration feedback if you want to pet the whale while it goes by. We want to make people feel nice things about the ocean and like kind of visually explain to them that if we impact it negatively, those things won't exist anymore. So yeah. So the experience is really, it goes through 3 different acts. The music itself starts off with this very bright, we want you to know that the ocean's here and it's beautiful. In the next act, it kind of gets a little bit more depressing. We really need to face these noise pollution and other things that negatively impact the ocean life. We want to show you those things so that you'll kind of start to feel it's easier to believe something's there when you're actually there, instead of just being like, oh, have you heard about this horrible thing that's happening? You're like, oh man, that sucks, but I'm not actually going to do anything about it. And then Act 3, we want to kind of pull you up from that depression and let you know that there's hope, and kind of guide people towards realizing that there are solutions out there. This is more about just spreading the awareness so that those solutions can be found. So like I mentioned before, we're going to hand off this prototype that we created to Dr. Song at the end of the semester with all the documentation she'll need to bring it to people who might want to invest in this, and teams that might want to polish it more to get it to those symphonies showings that she wants to put it in. This is our team. Beautiful, beautiful team. We would not have what we have.
Okay, so we're going to end the live stream now. So thank you to the people watching on the live stream for watching, and we'll see you next year in GameLab. So go ahead and cut it. And so I would encourage everyone. The Oceana demo is really nice and really